So thank you again for coming along to the Young Professionals Network event. If you're not involved, if you don't know anything about our Facebook groups or our LinkedIn groups, please join them. You'll kind of be kept up to date with all of our up and coming events, and also just kind of connecting with our members, sharing experiences and skills and so on. So thank you again, and I will hand it over to Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Kelly. So, so I guess first of all, so thank you to you, Kelly, and thanks for all the people that have come on today as well for allowing me to do this. So, as Kelly and I were discussing there, so lots of people have shared things with me in the past, which you're going to see from this presentation today. Lots of people have helped me on my journey, and I'm very much about that. So, both Kelly and I are both ex Leeds Beckett, so I still do quite a few talks at Leeds Beckett. I think it is important to share and kind of help each other, especially with something like this as well, where all the members are local as well. So, delighted to be talking for you all today. So I'll kick us off. So agenda for today. So I'm going to start off with a bit of an introduction from me, to give you an idea of my background, where I've come from. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about mindset, and we're going to talk about my kind of top 4 tips as well, which will lead us on to some time at the end for the Q&A session. So feel free to just kind of throw those things in as we go through. So I have got it up on my screen if something comes through, and I think it's kind of prominent to talk about it then I will do. Obviously, it might be coming up further on in the slide as well. So don't be offended if I save you to the end. So an introduction from me. So born in Harrogate. So in my opinion, kind of Yorkshire born and bred, although there's a lot of people from West Yorkshire will probably disagree with that. But yeah, so born and raised in Harrogate. So very entrepreneurial from an early age. So my first ever job was when I was 7 years old, and that was singing in the choir, earning very, very little, but still an opportunity to earn cash from the age of 7. I then saved up all my money, bought a mountain bike, and then got myself a paper round. So it was kind of a common theme for me all the way through life, always trying to look at where I could get myself next. And then at the age of 19, I started a career in sales. So selling all kinds of different things. So photocopiers was one of them, vehicle tracking devices, all kinds of weird and wonderful things. However, the issue was that I looked too young to be taken seriously. So people sometimes ask me if that's me. That's obviously not me, but that is basically how I looked. I looked like I was wearing my dad's suit, and decided that I can either wait until I look older or go to university. So I went to university when I was 23. Went to Leeds Beckett and did business studies. And so whilst I was there, I did some work for something called the Job Shop. I don't think it still exists, but it was basically a recruitment service for students. So they would get work for students to work part-time. So I went in and had a conversation with them and said, "Who sells this for you?" And they're like, "Well, I do, but go on, Jonathan, what are you trying to do?" So went in and worked in the Job Shop. Whilst I was working there, I actually got a job straight into recruitment. So I worked for a company called S3, so one of the biggest IT recruiters in the UK, and became one of the top billers within the company. And at that stage, I kind of decided there was a better way of doing things. So I'd taken all the training. I was doing really well, but I was doing really well off the basis of using that information and putting a slight tweak on it to make it my own style. And I thought there was a better way of doing things, and decided to set up my own company in 2008, so just as the recession started. So this is my first time of experiencing hitting a recession, but we did start in a recession. So the two are definitely very different. But yeah, so it was a really bad time to win clients, but a really good time to generate candidates. So as a result of that, we've got an absolute cracking database, and that's going to put us in good stead. So you've always got to look at the positives in these situations. So bringing us on to our first topic, so goals. So I'm sure a lot of you, when you think goals, you think of something slightly different. So this is what a lot of people will be thinking right now. But no, we're not talking about that kind of goal. even though this is obviously a spectacular goal by Aileen. That's not what we're talking about. So something else I would say at this stage as well is that one of my kind of mantras is think in ink. So I appreciate some of you might be typing away right now, but I'd always recommend that you take notes whenever you listen to a presentation, because it helps you remember it. I always find that if I don't take notes, I probably remember about 50%. If I do take notes, I remember about 90%, and I can find the other 10. So do please take notes as we're going through. So definition of a goal. So the objective of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result. So this is one definition. There's another one, which is the end towards which effort is directed. And so this is that's more my favourite out of the two, even though it kind of says less, because I think it demonstrates why goals are so important. Because without a goal, then where are you going? What are you actually doing? If you don't have a goal in the first place, where are you going? What are you doing? Like so if you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're doing, how do you know if you're doing well? So how are you supposed to measure yourself against yourself? Like you need to know where you're going and how well you're doing in order to know whether you're actually doing well in the first place. So how will you know when you get there? So I am a great believer that success is a direction rather than a destination, because as soon as you get there, there's something else that leads on to. But how are you going to know whether you've been successful, and how will you know when you're there? What does it look like? And how can you possibly have a plan if you don't have a goal in the first place? So in my opinion, so this was something that was told to me a while ago. So the worst thing in life would be to meet the person that you could have been. So who's that cool guy over there, or cool girl over there? That's the person that you could have been. It's like, well, I'll get my coat. I don't want to be at this party anymore. And I think that this happens through goal setting. This is how you become your best self, is by setting yourself goals in the first place. So why else should you have goals? So people in life without goals get overtaken by people with goals. So who said this? So David Bertels, lots of times from 2003 to 2020. So David Bertels is one of my mentors, but he's also my godfather. He's a self-made multi-millionaire, and he started off life with a goal. So when he was 12 years old, he stayed at his dad's friend's house in Sandbanks, and he broke a window, and he basically got the fear. He was like, my dad's gonna kill me. But his dad said, don't sweat it. Like, it's absolutely fine. The person who owns this house is a millionaire. And he's like, well, what's a millionaire, Dad? He's like, someone who's a millionaire is somebody who's got £1,000 pounds. So at that point, he went down to the beach. He started forming 10 by 10 squares to form hundreds, to form thousands, to see what a million would look like. And obviously the shore kind of washed away his efforts way before he got to a million. But he told his dad at that point in time, one day I'm going to be a millionaire. He said that was something that he was going to do. So David is he's a friend of Corcom. He's come into the business a couple of times to do some talks. And one of the things, one of the first questions he asked is, what goals do they have set? And so to my reply the first time was, wow, this is the thing. These guys are in their early 20s. They've got all the life ahead of them. They're not really fussed about these things. They're kind of living for the weekend. And he said, well, I've just told you that I set my goal when I was 12 years old. These guys are in the 20s. They're 10 years behind me. So they better hurry up and start setting some goals, because they're already 10 years behind. So David retired age 52, which is obviously pretty spectacular. And I know 52 does sound old. It even sounds old for me at this stage. The thought of retiring at 52, it's like, well, I said I was going to retire at 40. It's not happened. So setting goals is in David Bertels' eyes one of the most important things you can do. So we've also got another case study here. So a Harvard study. So prior to graduation, it was determined that 84% of the class had no goals at all. 13% of the class had goals written down, but no kind of concrete plan. and 3% of the class had both written goals and a concrete plan. So fast forward 10 years later from this study, so the 13% of the class that had written goals were now earning twice as much as what the people with no goals were earning. But the real kind of thing that might spark your interest in this is that the 3% that had the written goals and the concrete plan were earning 10 times what the 13%ers were earning. So it's not all about cash, and so we're going to come on to this in a minute. But so your goals might not be necessarily monetary related. So we'll come on to some examples soon. But it's not all about cash. I know that, but quite often it's seen as a kind of a career badge, isn't it? So how to set your goals. So always start with thinking time. So thinking time is something that we talk about very regularly within our company. And so I'm a great believer that if you want the right answers, you need to ask the right questions. And I could do at least a half an hour webinar on talking about the right questions to get the right answers. But that's not what this is about today. So always start with thinking time. So thinking time for me is a lot of it is about preparation. So make sure that you're kind of in a comfortable position. You're sat there, you've got 10 minutes to spare, and you get a piece of paper. You have an empty bullet point at the top of the page. You also have the correct question as well. So the question could be, what do I want? So what do I want in life? And I guess kind of subheadings of that would be, what do I love? Where do I want to be? What have I admired about people in the past? Like who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And as I said, that doesn't have to be money motivated. 10 minutes on the clock and away you go. Nothing to distract you. Get right in. So each time you fill that bullet point, you create another one. So, and what that does is that forces you to keep on thinking and keep on pushing, making sure that you get the ideas down. So that drives you to keep on thinking. So in the list, once you've got this, so look at the things that really excite you, because the idea behind the goal is to motivate you. It's the thing that keeps you going when you don't want to. So what stirs your passion, and start putting that into categories. So there could be things like travel, there could be things like home life, there could be monetary values, there could be promotions, there could be size of a business, like where do you want to be as an organization, all of these kind of things, and start developing a few hypotheses to test. So looking at them and thinking, right, okay, so if I get to that point in life, am I going to be happy? Is that the thing that's going to make me feel great about myself? So and something to remember. So this is a big quote from Bill Gates. So remember that people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and massively underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And that brings us to the 10-year kind of plan. So thinking 10 years ahead is difficult, because who knows where the world will be in 10 years, especially in the current climate. But who knows where things are going to be in 10 years, let alone where you'll be in 10 years. So, but that is the idea. So eventually develop a BHAG. So what is a BHAG? So is it a little monster? No, it's not. It stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. So I've got some examples for you. So a computer on every desk in every home. So I'm sure you can maybe have a good stab at whose that might be, but that was Bill Gates. So Microsoft's goal was to have a computer on every desk in every home, and I guess they achieved that. And now we're obviously onto kind of more mobile devices, but that definitely happened. So organize the world's information. So if you think about that, before we had Google, and it is Google's kind of thing that they're aiming for. So stuff was everywhere. So organising the world's information was not an easy task to do, but again, they've achieved it. So these are things that you would never think that you could actually do, but they did it. So crush Adidas. So that was Nike's, and I'm not sure they've necessarily crushed them, but they've certainly given them a good run for the money. They're definitely seen as a more premium brand than Adidas are. So an example of a kind of a non-profit one: to alleviate poverty, sickness, and social injustice for the world's most deprived communities. So that's a good friend of Kelly's and mine. So Nasheen, who runs the Moonlight Trust. So again, doesn't have to be about cash, doesn't have to be about money. But if you want to achieve things, you need to have a big, hairy, audacious goal that's going to push you. You need something that's going to make you work harder. So BHAG. So it needs to feel as if it's like 70% achievable. You need to be thinking about this and not knowing whether you can actually do this. Can this actually be done? Like, if it's not kind of pushing you to your boundaries, then it's not a BHAG. It's just a goal. There's nothing wrong with having kind of other goals and sub goals of the BHAG, but it should feel as if it's just about achievable. Has to be clear and compelling, and it has to match your values and purpose. So your purpose, you might find that your values and purpose actually come out from the exercise where you do something in time. Where you actually start writing those things out, you might realise, like, I never knew that about myself, but that is clearly one of my values. So a good BHAG is set with understanding, not bravado, is bold but not unrealistic. So I guess this kind of ties with the 70% achievable scenario. So so there has to be at least a 30% chance that it's not going to happen. Like, it's that big. So it's measurable. So I'm sure you've all heard of SMART targets. So we're not going to go into that now. But ensuring that it is specific and measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So you need to have those things in place in order to achieve your target. So it must be connected to your personal strategy. So whatever your personal strategy is, this needs to fit in with it. I guess it goes with the kind of the realistic or sometimes relevant in terms of SMART target. There's no point setting a target if it's not actually relevant to you. So it needs to be connected to your own personal strategy. And it must be long term. So they do say a minimum of 10 years. I would say if you had something set up for 5 years, then maybe, but 10 years would definitely, 10 years or longer is the advice. So how to hit your goals. So number one, write them down. So if you don't write them down, then they're not actually goals. Like, if you just have ideas kind of floating around your head, then I wouldn't say it's a goal. It needs to be written down in order to be classed as a goal. Otherwise, it's a wish. And nobody ever talks about what you'll achieve with great wishes. Like, it's all about goals. You need to have some kind of something to aim towards, and share them with everyone. So share them with anyone who will listen. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell absolutely anybody who will listen. And I guess this is, so when I'm interviewing people for my business, this is one of the biggest things that I talk to people about. What are your goals in life? What do you want to achieve? And if you haven't really got any goals, then what's going to keep you working? So life is tough. What's going to get you through those tough times? You need to have some goals that people are going to hold you accountable to. So make sure you kind of diarize these things. So just set reminders for kind of 3 months or a month. I mean, people who look at their goals every week are more likely to achieve them than people who look at them once a year. So kind of just doing a kind of New Year's resolution is not gonna change your life that much. So I quite often write my goals in January and then revisit them throughout the year, and obviously they may change slightly, but I think it's good to kind of put a year behind you and make you realise what you managed to achieve in that year, and think, right, well, next year is going to be bigger. What's it gonna look like? So I do like doing this in January, but they need to be revisited and make sure that you're constantly looking at them. Set markers in the sand and make sure that you look at these things. So always be thinking as well. So as you're kind of doing your work, once you've kind of set your goal, be looking at what you're doing. Is what I'm doing right now taking me closer to my goal, or further away? And it should always be taking you closer towards your goal, whatever that might be. So doing activities that will get you towards your goal. So then, so the paper trick, as I call it. So something else you can do is have a goal for the year. So again, it doesn't have to be monetary related. It could be, I want to pay off all my debt. I want to earn this much money, save this much money. I want to get this much money for a house deposit. I want to run a marathon this year. I want to make sure that by the end of the year I am this way and look this way. Like, I want to make sure that whatever it might be. So you write down this big goal. I think it's most important to you at that point in time. So this year, this is the thing I'm going to do. Now take that bit of paper, look at the goal, look at it, and physically kind of see it in your mind. Okay, so what does this look like? See the image as bright as you possibly can. Think of yourself as kind of hitting this target. How are you going to feel? All of these kind of things. And visualization is a big part of this. Visualize you hitting the goal. So the guy that originally told me this was like, kiss the bit of paper, dream it, visualize it, and then what you do is, with that bit of paper, you put it somewhere where you're going to find it on a regular basis. So I'll admit I've not done it this year, but all the previous years I've put this in my wallet, and every time I open my wallet and I see that bit of paper, take it out, look at it, and again visualize. So yes, I'm sure we've all seen Johnny Wilkinson with his drop kick taking. So visualizing the goal. In fact, all rugby players do this, don't they? I guess footballers visualize where the ball's going to go, visualize where you're going to go, and keep on pushing towards that. So mindset. So mindset. So once your goal is set and you know where you're going, this should come a lot easier. So if you've got something to aim towards and you know where you're going, then that makes everything a lot easier. So then you can start working out, what's the mindset I need in order to be able to achieve this goal. And having the right mindset and characteristics is everything. So people always talk about, the most important thing in life is about having the right attitude. Like that is the thing that will equal success. So Daley Thompson, I'm sure that you guys won't know who he is, but he was an Olympic champion, and it came to Christmas Day, and he was like, I'm going to give myself Christmas Day off. And he thought, hang on a sec, that German fella is pretty dedicated. I bet he's doing a run today. He's doing a run today so that he can beat me in 4 months' time at the Olympics. Well, he's not beating me. I'm going to go for a run. So he went for a run, got back home, shower changed, sat down, like, he's good, this guy. Maybe he would do 2 runs today. And he went for a second run. He's like, he got back, he's like, well, he is good, but he's not that good. He definitely wouldn't do 3 runs today. And off he went. And that was the thing that led him to becoming an Olympic champion. So having the right mindset is absolutely everything. So in terms of mindset, the things that I think are most important. So resilience. So this is something that's talked about an awful lot. So I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are quite they believe that resilience doesn't exist in young people like it used to. It's nonsense. It's absolutely not true. They're just remembering things very differently. So resilience. So a good definition that I've heard recently is keeping on going when the mood has long since left you. So setting out these goals and targets is going to be a big thing for you. You're going to be like, right, that's where I'm going. The time you demonstrate resilience is when you keep on going even though you don't want to. So that's the thing that's going to keep on going through. So I've been fortunate enough. So I did a course with Goldman Sachs, and one of the things that we did was we went to Bloomberg HQ, and I met Michael Bloomberg. And one of the things that he said is, you might be able to outsmart me. You might be able to outsmart me, but you'll never outwork me, I should say. So apologies for the typo there. I'm going to blame Charlie because he said he proofread it for me. Now Michael Bloomberg is an old dude. Maybe this thinking is outdated, but I've been to his HQ in London, and he's got £1 billion office, and I can tell you it's pretty special. And one of the things that Richard Nodder, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, always says is that this guy works harder than anyone else I know. So I do think that hard working and resilience, that there is no substitute for it. There are no shortcuts, and you need to decide, I guess, how much you want this goal, how much you want this thing. And if you've got kind of other goals that go alongside it, then maybe you'll decide, well, I don't want to dedicate all of my life to this. I'm prepared to dedicate this amount of time. The same still goes that that if you want to achieve that goal at that level, that's absolutely fine. But that time you dedicate to it has to be dedicated time. So I've got 2 children, and I dedicate a lot of my time to my children because that's important to me. So resilience, in my opinion, isn't something that's innate. It's not one of those things that's just given to you naturally. It's something that you have to work at. So anybody who wants to achieve a physique of a certain level has to go to the gym. Anybody who wants a resilience at a certain level, you have to go to the gym. You have to work outside your comfort zones. So if you're constantly working inside your comfort zone, you will stay within your comfort zone. And in actual fact, what will happen is your comfort zone will contract. So all the things that you've done where you've been slightly brave will disappear, and your comfort zone will contract. So resilience is all about working outside of your comfort zone. And when you start fixing problems outside that area, which is classed as your stretch zone, that's where that becomes your new comfort zone. That's the only way that you get better at this. So someone once told me, you start off by solving the £10 problems. So doing a paper round, right, will get you a tenner a week. If you want to know more than that, you need bigger problems. So you go out there and you need to look for the bigger problems, and eventually you're solving £100 problems, £200 problems, £1,000 problems, etc. So that is the definition of this. So now, thankfully for all of us, we've got some really challenging times ahead. So resilience is going to be improved all round. So everyone's going to get the chance to prove how resilient they are in the kind of coming years after from the aftermath from the COVID virus. So so I also do believe that in life is something happening to you or for you. So you need to look at the positives in every situation. So this is going to be a challenging time, but as a result of that, we're going to develop our resilience. We're going to become better at problem solving. We're going to become more innovative, more creative, because we're going to have to be. So even though I wouldn't wish this will be an opportunity for us all to develop. So my next one is a thirst for knowledge. Unfortunately for everyone on this, including myself, education is never out for the professional. So I know that'll be a disappointing message to those people who've recently finished university and thought, right, okay, there we go, education, I'm done. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case, guys. So education is never out for the professional. You constantly need to be learning and upgrading your thinking. So when I was in my early 20s, I was told be a sponge in your 20s and then formulate a plan in your 30s and 40s. Unfortunately, we now live in the information age. So I've continued through my 30s and I'm still being a sponge. I'm still absorbing that information because we live in the information age. So the lifelong learner is here forever. This is going to be one of those things, and you're going to have this as part of achieving that goal. So the next one for me would be accountability. So I always say that I can't work with people who can't be improved. If you're perfect, why are you here in the first place? So anybody who's working for me, they need to be accountable. So if nothing's ever your fault, how can you improve? So nobody's perfect. So regular self-reflection is a big part of what we do. So on a daily basis, we have look back at the previous day. 3 things that we achieved yesterday. 1 thing that we could have improved, or 1 thing that we've learned from the day before, and then 3 big things that we want to achieve this day. As you can see, goals are kind of built into everything that we do here. So you're wondering what the hell that little cereal thing is there, and that's because so feedback is part of this as well. So feedback is the breakfast of champions, hence the feedback cereal there. And that was the best picture I could find, I'm afraid. I once heard a story about a guy who was down in London, and he'd asked his old sports coach, who'd moved into the world of business, if he could shadow him on a networking meeting. So he went along, and so in fact he sat at a board table listening to a board, and it got to the kind of halfway point, and they were all having kind of teas and coffees, and he basically asked this rugby player, he's like, so what do you think of this so far? And he was just like, there's some weird shit going on here. Like what is some, and he's like, what are you talking about? This is business. This is how we do business. He's like, anyway, we'll talk at the end. So went through the rest of the session, and then at the end of it, he said, I know what it is. He said, you business guys don't like receiving feedback. He said, if somebody told me, drive from here to Manchester to receive a negative piece of feedback right now, I would do it, because feedback is one of the most important things in order to improve. So that's my number 3. So number 4 is stay true to your values. So our biggest asset during the current pandemic have been our values. So one of the things that kind of really hit home for me was when all of this kicked off. We had some difficult decisions and difficult conversations to have and make. So we went out to the team and we had those conversations, and it's definitely, so I know this might sound weird out of context, but it's the highlight of my career, because the support that my team gave me was absolutely unbelievable. So their response to the situation and kind of trying to offer any help that they could give was absolutely overwhelming. And I think that's come because our values as a business. So it was absolutely heartwarming. So sorry guys. So stick true to your values regardless of how big you come as well. So I've got my kind of school friends are still my friends now. I still meet with them on a regular basis. We have a game of poker kind of once a month, once a quarter-ish. And so as part of that, I said in the beginning, the money in is £5. And that's all it's ever going to be, because I don't ever want this to be about cash. I want this to be about friends coming together. So it's still £5 now. So people have attempted over the years to try and edge it up to a tenner. No, not happening, guys. Not happening. It's staying at £5, and it'll be that when we're 50, 60, 70 years old. So the other thing is as well. So when you're kind of being goal focused, you can lose sight of your values. So I'm a very, very goal-focused individual. So there are examples where I've been on holiday before, and the goal is to have a good time. So how are we going to have a good time? We're going to visit all of these places. And then by visiting all of those places at such a rapid speed, we don't enjoy ourselves. So sometimes you need to kind of take a step back and make sure that you are staying true to your values whilst you're kind of working through this as well. So again, kind of for me, so making sure that I have family time. I always add on to my goals to do something with my family every year. So I always want to make sure that I'm doing something. So something that we do as a business is that when it comes to Christmas, we give everyone in the company a bottle of champagne. And I tell everyone, that's not for you to drink on your own. You have to take that back to your family. I want you to enjoy that with your family. And that's for the help and support that they've given you whilst doing a very tough job working for us. It's also because when I was younger, I got given a bottle of champagne from a boss, and I cracked it out on Christmas Day. And now every year since then, that was when I was 19. Every year since then, I buy the champagne at Christmas. So I buy it for my family, but I also buy it for a load of the people's families as well. But I think the sentiment is that I'm providing the champagne. Like that's what I want it to be. I make sure that my friends, I've always got time for them wherever they need me as well. So my original goal when I first set out was to earn enough money to be able to support my friends and family. So I always stayed true to that original goal, even though no matter how successful you become, you need to make sure that you're always staying true to your values. And that is it from me. So feel free to connect with me. So there's my email address. That's my LinkedIn account. So as you can see, I'm So I'm in there with a llama. You might think that's a bit weird, but the number one thing to do in Harrogate is llama walking. So we did it as a company incentive with a girl who works here who's also from Harrogate as well. So because she'd hit an incentive, I was like, we're going to do a Harrogate day, and we went and did this llama walking. It's pretty good. I know it sounds weird, but yeah, trust me, just go with it. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys.